Hello everyone, welcome to the KJ Lee Experience. My name is KJ Lee, and I'll be your host. The goal of the show is to uncover the valuable life lessons taught throughout sports. We'll be introducing you to some of the highest performing professionals in the world today, and we'll have them share their unique experiences about how they use sports to see the bigger picture, and we'll explain how you can use sports to win in life. I hope you enjoy. Thank you guys for joining us today. It is the first episode of the KJ Lee Experience. It is September the 18th, and we have a very special guest. This guy has been giving me advice since I was 16 years old, and not only basketball, but life as well. He went from being one of the best basketball players in the country to suffering a career-altering injury, and he was forced to change career paths. He was recently featured on the Ellen DeGeneres show, and he is now a motivational speaker, writer, and mentor. I would like to introduce you guys to Malachi Davis.
KJ.
Okay.
Thank you for having me on the show, brother. It's definitely a pleasure. I'm honored to, basically be the first guest on this show. I know that you guys are going far, and I know that this is going to be a real big podcast, so I'm excited to, bless the stage.
Thank you for joining me. I'm going to get right to it. You were on the Ellen DeGeneres show. How did this happen?
Well, it's funny, I've probably told this story 1,000 times. That's everybody's question when they like, yo, how did you get on Ellen? But I was actually at work at the time, and to be honest, I wasn't really in a good space where I was working. It was like I was kind of feeling like I could be doing a lot more for myself. So, at this time, my lunch breaks would usually just be me scrolling. I would be bored, and one day I'm scrolling on Facebook.
Yeah.
Facebook does the ads, and an ad pops up. It says Ellen DeGeneres show, blah, blah, blah. So I click on it. I see that it says that you can suggest someone to be in the audience on the show.
Yeah.
So I say, I know my mom loves Ellen. Let me see what I could do. Maybe get her some tickets. That'd be a nice trip. Her birthday's coming up. So I go on, and I'm a creative writing major.
Okay.
So writing is my passion.
That's what you do.
Exactly. So as I start writing, I just started flowing subconsciously. It's not like I was even really thinking it. I guess the topic, my mom, I'm so passionate about it. I just start writing. I'm flowing. So by the end of it, I'm like, this is way too long for what they asked for. So I'm going to actually delete it at that. I'm like, nah, this is too much. My coworker's like, nah, just send it in, bro. So I send it in. At this point, I'm like, it could be a scam. I don't know if it's real. And, I'm feeling skeptical about it. So what ended up happening was I put the phone down on the charger. Me and my coworker leave to get lunch. We may have been going for 25 minutes tops.
Okay.
I come back. I have a missed call. I'm like, So I'm like, maybe it's, bill collectors or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't recognize this number. I call back. It's the people from the Ellen show.
Wow.
They got my letter. They loved it. And,
That quick.
That fast. And I don't know if that's, always the case, but like, yeah, it was like, I guess fate. Like God, when God is guiding your steps, it's like, whoa, So,
Yes.
Yeah, that fast. And I called back, and the rest was history. They fell in love with me and my family, and shortly later we won the show.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? It was in California, right? So you flew out to California.
Flew out to Cali.
Yeah.
Man, listen. It's there's a cliche saying when the people say it's the experience of a lifetime. But this literally was the experience of a lifetime. It's something that my family and I will never forget, and it's stamped in history. It was on film. It's something that we'll always be able to play.
Everything. We love everything. It's been amazing.
Would it be your favorite part if I invited the whole family down right now? Oh my God. Hi! Star, right? Oh, Cha-Cha and Anna. Cha-Cha. Hi, Michelle. I love you. Hi.
Hey, Ellen.
All right, I have to.
The funny thing about it was when we were on the show filming, it was my daughter's first birthday.
Wow.
So that's a memory. How could you forget that? You know, my daughter turned 1 and we were on
The Ellen show for the first birthday.
Yeah. And Ellen actually said a joke. You know, she was like, you know, what are you going to do for a second birthday?
Yes,
it's hard to tell.
that's what I'm thinking.
Right. I'm like, I'm sitting here thinking now, like, I'm going to have to write in again or something and try to get back on. But, yeah, bro, it was beautiful. It just, it opened my eyes to so many possibilities. Because prior to that, I didn't think writing would be the thing that takes me far. You know, you hear about people that write books, poetry, and you usually hear about artsy people struggling.
Yes.
Oh, it's not a thing you can make a good living off of and things of that nature. So to be so well received on such a national platform, you know, people actually everywhere. I've gotten messages from Africa, Trinidad, Jamaica, all over. And it's like, wow, like this was through my writing.
Yeah.
So it just really just opened my eyes to a plethora of things. And it's like, wow, you know, God blessed me with this opportunity. And from then on, it's just been full steam. Like, I got to live up to who I am and who I was called to be.
Yeah. And that was great to see. I believe that great things happen to great people. And I'm just happy that you guys got to experience that.
Thank you, bro.
What I want to know is when did you start this motivational speaking?
So it's a funny story. Like you said, since you met me,
Yeah.
I've been doing this, you know, just talking to people, motivating people, sharing my own story to help others in their lives. And this is something that came natural, you know, and I know a lot of people are familiar with the saying, when you enter a job, it should be something that you love doing, even if you didn't get paid for it.
Yes.
Talking has always been something that I've done prior to it being a job. So the transition into making it a job was actually a very easy one because it was something that I love doing anyway.
Yeah.
I always love helping people. My name, Malachi, is the last book in the Old Testament, and it actually means messenger of God.
Wow.
So that's another story in itself, how I even got that name and stuff like that. But I do feel like my mother named me appropriately, Malachi, because, you know, I do feel like I'm delivering messages to the people. And my first event that I could say that like really made me take off with it was a friend of mine, Derek Klein. He attended Luau with me. He actually called me one day and asked me to come and speak at the school.
Okay.
So there was an incident that had taken place, and you know the kids, they were doing like grief counseling and stuff like that. So I came in to speak, and I wasn't aware that he was filming me. I spoke. The kids, you know, they received everything I said. It was a great reception. And he ends up sending me the video later on. He says, bro, you got to post this.
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't even know you was filming me.
Wow.
So I posted on social media. The reception is crazy. It's 2,000-3,000 views, less than a couple hours. And I, at that point, wasn't really looking at motivational speaking as something that I would do. But the reception was so great. I was like, wow.
So that opened your whole mind to it.
It changed my whole perspective of what this could be.
Okay.
It was like up until that point, I would do it for free. I would go to school sometimes. My mom's a teacher, so I would, you know, go to the career day and speak like that. But I never looked at the bigger picture. Like, Malachi, you have a gift, and you should be using this on a bigger platform.
Wow.
After I did that with Derek, it was like, whoa, I could do this. Because so many people had inboxed me inquiring, do you do this? Can you come to my school?
Just from you posting it?
Just from me posting that one video. So from then on, I changed the level of thinking when it came to that. It was like, I need to start really looking in this direction because this is something that I love. And if I could turn this into a job, that would be amazing.
And I saw that you recently did a keynote speech. A lot of people don't get the chance to do that in their life. Were you nervous? What was that process like?
Listen, it's insane because when I was on the Ellen show, people actually used to ask me like, was that staged? Did you know? Because they said, you know, you spoke so well. You didn't stutter. You didn't waver. You were like, it was almost like it was a script given to you.
Yes.
And it wasn't. That was a total surprise. I didn't know I was going to be on the show. I didn't know it was going to happen that way. I didn't know they were going to call us up. So after that experience, and being nervous and having the ability to switch from sweating profusely to talking clear and nobody would even know how nervous I was.
Yeah.
I said, this is a passion of mine and a gift, because if I'm able to just transition like that, this is something I got to look into.
I mean, you said you wouldn't be the man you are today without her, and why is that?
I think a lot of people don't realize how hard it is to raise a child with both parents. And then to raise a male, being a woman by yourself, is extremely difficult. And I can remember days my mom getting on the bus and train, and it's snowing, and we didn't have a car, and she would take me to school and go to Brooklyn and go to her job. And, those things just taught me perseverance and how to be a hero, because she's my hero. And I just hope that I'm able to be the same type of hero to my daughter that she was to me.
What an amazing guy. You're amazing.
You're amazing. You're amazing.
All right.
Speaking thing, it was after Ellen. And, I already had experienced that. But now I'm talking at Queens College, which is a prestigious college.
Yeah.
I'm speaking in front of a crowd of 3,000, which
Wow.
was super nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
This is my first gig. So it was like, there was a quick transition. So from the time that I'm sitting, anticipating them calling my name, I'm like, breathing super hard, I'm sweating.
Yeah.
And it's funny, it's like, it was kind of similar to when they called me up on Ellen. I went from that to walking up to the stage, and as soon as I grabbed the microphone, all of that disappeared.
Really?
And I was just able to speak freely and do what I've done my whole life. And that's just, like I said, it's something that's always come natural, speaking. And, I think that was like what really started me off, because like the stuff that I did with Derek was on a smaller scale.
Yes.
30 kids, school. So that was my comfort zone. I was accustomed to doing that. Like I said, I used to do career days. This was like the big leagues.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It was a blue ribbon school, which means it's one of the top schools in the country that I spoke for. And it's a crowd of 3,000. So
wow.
like,
I couldn't even imagine.
Whoa. So that kind of got me on my way. And that's where, like, I could say, like, I credit that with, like, breaking me into really doing the motivational speaking.
Okay. I recently read a book that I believe goes hand in hand with this topic that we're discussing. So the book is by Robert Greene. You familiar with him?
I am. I'm
Yes.
definitely familiar with him.
He wrote the 48 Laws of Power. If you haven't read it yet, check that out. But the book that I read by him is titled Mastery. And the whole idea of it is to become a master in your craft, you need to put in 10,000 hours, he says. So there's 3 different phases. First is the apprentice phase, and that's like being an intern, learning as much as you can. Then it's the creative phase. That's when you're first starting to put out your work to the world. And then it's mastery. So once you're a master, you're just taking knowledge from everywhere and you're combining it to your work. So with you, like I said, you've been giving off game since you were young. I was 16. That means you were only 19 giving off game. The creative phase is when you first start putting out your work. That would be like you speaking when Derek asked you to speak. And then now you're giving keynote speeches. So I would say that you're approaching mastery. What I want to do is I want to read this quote from the book, and I want to see what this quote means to you.
Absolutely.
Okay? Here we go. The quote says, "Many of those who succeed in life have had the experience in their youth of having mastered some skill, a sport or game, a musical instrument, foreign language, and so on. Buried in their minds is the sensation of overcoming their frustrations and entering the cycle of accelerated returns. In moments of doubt in the present, the memory of the past experience rises to the surface. Filled with trust in the process, they trudge on well past the point in which others slow down or quit." So my question to you is, in your youth, was there something, a skill, a sport that you mastered that sticks with you today?
Absolutely. So as you said earlier, I played basketball. I was one of the top players in the country, highly recruited prospect. I got a scholarship to Long Island Lutheran. And I think that basketball was something that became second nature to me, because I didn't grow up in a household where basketball was stressed, or I didn't have, I come from a single parent household. So I grew up with a lot of women.
Okay.
And the females in my household weren't, sports people, so that they wouldn't take me to the park to shoot around. A lot of my peers had that. They had brothers, they had their dad that would take them to the park. So they started a lot earlier than I did.
Okay.
But what I can say is, when I did start, I was 10, 11 years old when I first really started playing.
Yeah.
Like occasionally I would go to the park. There might be kids there shooting around. I would do that. But on the level of playing, like, on a team, I was probably 10 years old. And I think that because I started so late,
Yeah.
it was like people already looked at me as being behind
Okay.
a lot of the people that I played with. You know what I mean? So, like, I grew up playing against Kyrie, Tobias Harris, Lance Stevenson. Like, these are some of the best players that ever come out of New York.
Yeah.
So, the level of basketball that a lot of those guys were on when we were starting was light years ahead of me because I'm new to this. But my first time playing, I did so well, they actually put me 2 grades above.
Okay.
And told my mother, no, he has to play up. He can't play with his age group. This was my first time playing.
How'd your mom feel about that?
She was, my mom is funny. Like, my mom's a dancer. So my mom, she danced for Alvin Ailey since she was 12 years old. She danced with the adult company. So, like, she's been involved in so many things as far as, like, that aspect. So she was kind of familiar with being, like, a child prodigy, you know what I mean, in the dancing world. But basketball was a little different for her because she wasn't really familiar. But she was kind of shocked, like, whoa, my son is, like,
that good.
Like, I never seen him play. He's never showed any interest with basketball. But from there, it was like everything came fast. I got ranked. Then I ended up going to a middle school by the name of George Ryan, and we went undefeated. I was the first 6th grader to make the team there because at that time you had 9th graders. Like, in the city, it would be like middle school would start 6th to 8th.
Yeah. A
lot of schools back then had 9th grade. So that's like, imagine you being 10, 11 years old coming in, you're playing against 14-year-olds. So it's a big, even though it doesn't sound that much of a gap,
it's
that's
definitely a difference.
Discrepancy. 14 in high school, you're physically different. So to be a 6th grader playing was like unheard of. First 6th grader to play. So as I started hitting these milestones, I started to see that this is something that I'm naturally good at. I didn't work at it hard. I didn't spend years perfecting it up until that point.
Yes.
But when I realized the opportunities that my mother never had to pay for sneakers. I always got free sneakers, book bags, clothes, things of that nature. Going to a prestigious school like Luau on a scholarship, these doors that were opening through basketball made me feel like I had to master it.
Okay.
Because of the opportunities it presented.
Yes.
Because as quiet as it's kept, I never loved basketball. A lot of people don't know that about me. Like, they just, he was good, so he had to loved it.
Yeah.
And they think I lost the love when I injured myself and got surgery. That's not the case. I never had that passion that a lot of people have for basketball.
Okay.
I just happened to be good at it.
Okay.
And basically, what led me to wanting to master it was the benefits. My mother didn't have to come out of pocket, which was huge when you have a single parent.
Yeah.
You don't want them to have to spend so much and stuff like that. I'm going to prestigious schools outside of my neighborhood. So those opportunities that it presented to me made me say, Kyle, you got to master this. So from then on, it became something that I was putting in the work. I was working out. I was going to the gym. I was going to the park. I was playing as much as I could. And I think that routine transferred into life.
Okay.
And I was able to pick up certain things from that. So when it was something that I was passionate about, like writing, I knew what I had to do to be good at it.
Got you.
You understand? Because in basketball, I knew the work I had to put in. So it's like, if I'm not willing to put that effort or more, because this is something that I love, then I'm not doing it right.
If you don't mind me asking, when did you get hurt? What was that experience like? Because I did a little bit of research, and Coach Foster told me that when you were in your prime, before you got injured, you were just as good, if not better than Tobias.
Yeah.
So what was that injury like?
Well, I appreciate that. Coach Foster, Tobias is my brother. That's actually my daughter's godfather. So I'm not gonna take nothing away from that. He's an outstanding player. But I was definitely up there with the best of them. when I played and before my injury, you know, I could jump out the gym, super athletic.
You said you had the IQ as well.
IQ was crazy, and then I guess I could credit my mom with the footwork. She was a dancer, but I had impeccable footwork. So it was difficult because I got hurt. I was actually playing against one of my best friends at the time, Javon Pinkston. He went to Villanova. He was actually the #1 freshman in the country. We went to Lockland together. That's where I went my freshman year before I transferred to Lehigh.
Okay.
And we were playing in this tournament, Dean Street, which is like Conrad McRae, one of the biggest high schools, going into high school tournaments.
Yes.
And, you know, us both being big names in Brooklyn, and, you know, we grew up playing against each other. It was like a big game. And I'll never forget, I did a move. And when I did the move, someone like dove into my knee kinda.
Yeah.
And I immediately knew something was wrong because when I fell, when I would bend my knee, I could see the bones like protruding out of my skin.
Wow.
So I was like, Jesus Christ, you know what I mean? And this is right before high school. So it's like going in, you being a big name, it's like, this is your time, you know, this is your first year. So my first initial thought was, please don't let it be anything major. So my mom takes me to get, you know, a first opinion. Doctor said, listen, you're gonna have to get surgery. He said, you tore your meniscus, you chipped cartilage, you have broken fragments floating around in your knee, you gotta get surgery. Wow. So at that time I was going to Jerry Powell, you know, one of the top trainers in the country. And Jerry said, listen, I'm gonna do you a favor. I'm gonna connect you with a guy. He was the trainer for the Boston Celtics for years, to try to get a second opinion for you. Yeah. Because at that point, it's just you don't want to get surgery because you know how long you might have to be out. So it's like, if I could rehab it and not have to sit out, you want to do that. So long story short, I go to the guy, and he's honest with me. He said, you can try to rehab it, but by the time you're 20 years old, you'll have arthritis because the fragments that are floating in your knee are going to cut up the tissue. Yeah. And it's not going to protect your knee anymore.
Wow. How old were you at the time?
I was 14.
You were young.
I was young. So when that happened, it was kind of like, what am I going to do? Because here it is. This is something that I put so much time and effort into, traveling, missing summers. You know, a lot of people don't realize when you're a child playing on that level, your childhood is kind of stripped from you. Yes. Because when most kids are at the beach with their family, at Six Flags, eventually, you're on the road playing. You're at Boo Williams in Virginia, you're in North Carolina at Bob Gibbons, you're in Vegas at the Nike Super Summit. So you're kind of omitting your childhood when you sign on to that life. And it's like that effort and energy and time that you put into it, you're like, I got to reap the reward and benefit from it. Yes. So at that point, it's like, what am I going to do? So I ended up getting the surgery, and I started to see how people started to act differently towards me. So a lot of people that was calling me every day, sending me shipments of sneakers to my house, they're not calling me anymore. They're not checking up on me. They don't know if I'm going to be the same player that I was afterwards. Okay. And that revealed a different side of basketball to me. Yeah, who's real, who's not. And what it showed me is that this is a business. Even though you're only 14 years old, there are people looking at you as a business opportunity. Okay. How can I get in with this kid? Because if he makes it to that level, I want to be aligned with him. You understand? And from there on, I never looked at it the same because I realized, wow, these are people that I put my faith in. I thought they really loved me, not what I could do for them. And then when I saw the difference in how they acted, I went, whoa, okay. And it made me step back and reevaluate. At 14 years old, that's a lot to take in. I wasn't an adult. So it's like, and a lot of these people I looked at almost as father figures. Like I said, coming from a single parent household. So that hurt a little bit. It was like, whoa, that kind of stung. And from there, it was like I told you, I didn't love basketball. So I didn't put the effort into my rehabbing and the rehabilitation because I didn't love it enough to sacrifice it. And I just looked at it as a way out.
Okay.
And I've never said this before, but in all honesty, it was like, this is a way where people in my neighborhood will understand me not wanting to play as hard.
Wow. But only you knew that.
But only I knew that. You know what I mean? Because if I would have just stopped playing at the height of my career, what are you doing? There's so much pressure. Everybody thinks you're going to make it from your neighborhood. So this was like, all right, they'll understand this more. I got hurt. So I never really put that time and effort into rehab or anything like that to get back to where I was. Because I'm not going to lie and say I couldn't have.
Yeah.
I could have. But I just didn't have that passion. And then when I seen how people changed, it left a bad taste in my mouth even more so now. So it's like, I'm okay.
You didn't want to have nothing to do with that.
Right. So Lehigh just happened to be a blessing. I was thinking about transferring from Lockland and some of the other schools that I had been looking at, Christ the King, they really wanted me. This is when Bob Oliva was there. Cardozo, Ronda Clario, he wanted me since I was in 6th grade. Rice, Mo Hicks was there at the time. So I had all these schools, but you couldn't play immediately if you transited from Catholic to Catholic.
Okay.
Lehigh, because it's an independent school, I could play right away.
Got you.
I had never heard of Lehigh
Yeah.
prior to that.
They just came looking for you.
I'm from the city. I never heard of Lehigh. And what happened was I got a call from a guy by the name of Mike Moore. And Mike goes, listen, the coach at Lehigh, Brian Carey at the time, wants to talk to you. So I'm like, okay. So he calls my mother. He's like, listen, we would love to have your son. Please, like, boom, boom, boom. My mother goes for a visit with me. We see the campus, we see the area. You know, Brookville is beautiful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's scenic, it's amazing. My mom is like, oh, you're coming here. 'Cause my mother's a teacher, bro, so basketball is never the first thing on her agenda. It's like, you're gonna get this education.
Okay.
That's what's important. So when that opened up, it was like, you're going. And then I think that was probably the best decision I ever made, going to Lehigh.
And it's all starting to make sense now. So you going through that injury, I believe it made you wiser.
Absolutely.
Which now makes sense to how you were getting off game to me and some of my other friends. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like at camp back in the day.
Right.
So the goal of the show is to uncover the valuable life lessons taught through sports. I always knew that you would be somebody, even if it wasn't in basketball. My question to you is, what role did sports play in defining determination to you?
Well, a lot of things. I think that mostly it was the resilience that I got. And that plays into determination because in any journey in life, right, you're gonna have bumps, you're gonna have obstacles. But if you don't have perseverance and resilience,
Yes.
you won't get there. You won't get to the finish line because those things will deter you from continuing on.
Okay.
What I learned in basketball, what's funny is it wasn't so much on the court, it was the roadblocks that I had.
Got you.
You understand? So getting hurt, seeing the change from being one of the top players to we don't know if you'll ever be the same player again, seeing people change, being doubted, all these things taught me perseverance in life because it showed me that just because one way doesn't work, there's multiple roads to success. There's not only one. So basketball was just one road. There's so many other roads that I could have taken or that I took to get to that finish line. And that's okay. So I think that when it comes to determination, I became determined to still be somebody despite basketball.
Okay.
You understand? So it's like I was a big name in this city and still am in the basketball world when I go places. You know how it is.
Yes.
People see me. But it was like, I'm going to have that same effect without basketball.
Okay.
I'm still going to be great. I'm not going to allow that to define me because I've always looked at life as this. Situations don't define the person. How they deal with situations is what defines them.
I love that.
So it was like, I'm not going to allow this injury to define me. How I bounce back and deal with it and stay determined, that's what's going to define me and write my story.
Got you.
And it's been blessings ever since.
And is this what you are talking to these students about?
I talk to the students about a plethora of things. So it kind of depends on what's asked of me. So I was actually asked to speak at Boston University. They had a Latino, basically like I don't want to say a club, but it was like a department that they were opening up with for the Latino students. And I was asked to come and speak to them. That speaking engagement was more so me talking about my experience going to a college that was predominantly white.
Okay.
And, you know, having to adjust and the culture shock of that. So that was one thing.
So you could switch it up.
I could switch it up. Because basically what it is I can speak about anything that pertains to my life that I've dealt with. And most of the time there's going to be somebody in that audience that can directly relate to something I say. You know, I tell people all the time, you might not hear the most interesting story in the world when you hear my story, but you'll hear a relatable story. And as long as you can relate, that'll allow you to know that you can do it too.
Got you.
Everything that I've done.
Got you. So I feel like us athletes or us people that have played sports in the past, I feel like we look at life differently than people that haven't played sports, whether it be the determination that we learned through the sport, the resilience that we learned.
Right.
And when people ask me what I mean by this, it's sometimes hard to explain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a quote from a book from Phil Knight, the creator of Nike. He wrote a book titled Shoe Dog.
Okay.
This is what Phil Knight said. He said, like it or not, life is a game. Whoever denies that truth, whoever simply refuses to play, gets left on the sidelines. And I didn't want that. How could people look at life as a game?
Well, life is a game, you know what I mean? And I say that in the sense of you have players, which are human beings. You have coaches, which are people that take you under the wing and teach you about life. And then you have an ultimate goal. So in most games, the goal is to win.
Yes.
In life, the goal is also to win. It's just a different way. There's a different transition to it. Winning in life is being successful. Fulfilling your purpose.
Yes.
That's how you win in life. And I think that there are so many metaphors that you can compare sports to life. And I'm gonna give you a perfect example. One of the biggest things that I learned through basketball was networking.
Okay.
Right? Right now, I don't think there's anything more important than networking. You can get a job faster networking than having multiple degrees.
I agree.
I know people with doctorates, masters that are looking for work. And I know people with bachelors, even GEDs, high school diplomas that just knew somebody and have great jobs. So that's taught me the importance of networking. But in basketball, you're doing that all the time. You're meeting other players when you travel, the people on your teams. And you're not playing for one team. You might play for your high school team. You might play for more than one AAU team. So all these people that you meet in life, you form these bonds with. Tobias is still one of my best friends in the whole entire world. I go to his games. That's my family. We go out to eat when he comes to town. Like, I love him to death, but I met him through basketball.
Crazy.
I would have never met him any other way. You know what I mean? So there's so many people that you come across that you build bonds. You know, I play with Dion Waiters. I play with Kyrie Irving. I played against Mike Gilchrist. You know, all these people, Kimba out. And it's like you create these lifelong bonds because basketball is like a fraternity.
Yes.
Once you're in this world, it's like you're connected, especially in New York. You know what I mean? So it's like that was a lesson that I didn't even realize at the time. But now in retrospect, I'm like, you know, I'm such a good networker because I did that while I played. You know what I mean? This sport consists of that. Me networking with players, networking with coaches. And it's funny because you don't realize that that's a skill at the time. You just think, oh, I'm just doing what I do.
Just regular.
And then when you get older and you realize, wow, this is such an important skill in life, you realize, wow, that was really teaching me an integral skill.
Yes.
Because now it's like the transition into networking in the business world is that easy. Because it's like I've done this my whole life playing. You know what I mean? So I definitely agree with that quote from Phil Knight. I think that it's a very integral part. And I think that everyone should play sports or push their children to play some type of sport, whatever it may be. Chess, basketball, tennis, because it builds character. it teaches you lifelong lessons that you'll always have. And like I said, it's the only time that you get to just naturally network without even knowing it. It's fun. It's like you want to network with the kids on your team. You want to network with other kids. You want to know who else is ranked. You want to know this, that, and the third. And I think that those skills that you can apply to life are very important. So you shouldn't measure success in a sport by making it to the pros.
Yes.
You should measure it by the journey. And that journey, the things that you learn along the way, that's what's important.
One thing that I noticed, like you said, a lot of people that play sports, they have the goal of making it to the highest level,
right?
The league. Everyone wants to go to the league.
Absolutely.
What I realize is people are not taking what they're learning from these sports. Like you said, networking, they're just doing it naturally, so they're taking it for granted.
Absolutely.
My question to you is that there's parents out there who don't allow their children to play sports because injury or what have you.
Right.
What would you tell these parents?
I would say, I don't think, well, I'm first of all, foremost, let me say that I'm not telling anybody how they should raise their children or what they should do. But from my personal experience, I think that they're taking away from the development of their children by sheltering them and keeping them away from sports. I think sports on any level is a good thing. You know what I mean? Even when you think of biddies or super, super young.
Yeah.
That's a great experience to just integrate your kid into society. A lot of children these days are very awkward. They don't know how to be around other kids. They don't know how to play. They're very sheltered. And I think that sports break that icebreaker.
Yes.
When you are forced to play with somebody, you start to open up a little bit. You talk to them. You learn about them more. And I think that as a parent, you would make the transition into school and the life a lot easier if you allowed for your child to be involved in sports. And like I said, some of the greatest lessons I've learned in my life were through sports, whether it was actually on that court or off the court, but still had something to do with basketball.
I agree. So there's one more topic that I want to touch on. So when you got injured, you said that's when you realized that the sports is a business.
Yes.
One topic I want to touch on is using sports, not letting sports use you.
Absolutely. I think that that's the most important thing that people have to learn from sports, because a lot of people don't realize just how valuable they are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you're a player, you just think, oh, I'm playing, but you're the most valuable piece in the puzzle. People are already looking at you from the age of 12, 11, 10 as
early.
A good almost. It's like goods. You're basically a piece of a puzzle in their mind that's gonna help them further their business, however that be. So you look at somebody like Zion.
Yep.
Nike's been looking at him since he was a child. You know what I understand? And he's been looked at as a business piece since that young. Okay, we got to get with this kid. Even sneaker companies, for example, you can't make money, right? As a collegiate player. But you have these players that come to schools with huge names, and the only reason why they're on ESPN that much or on TV that much or the jerseys are being sold out is because of that player. It's not because of the school.
Yes.
So they're going to go on and make millions of dollars for this school, for this institution. God forbid they blow their knee out, lose the opportunity to play in the league. They've made millions of dollars for this school and haven't seen it down.
That's why these guys are going one and done, getting out of there as quick as possible.
And people don't realize, a lot of people, they're upset about that. A lot of people have negative things to say about that. But you have to realize, when you take kids that come from poverty, that have dedicated time, energy, effort into a sport their whole life, and they view this as their only means to get their family out of that neighborhood, they don't want to risk getting hurt. They don't want to take these risks because it's like, why would I make so much money for an institution that already has money?
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing a dime of it. risk getting hurt, losing my opportunity to take my family out of this situation when I could just go overseas and make money.
Yeah.
Or I can be one and done. You understand? So it's like that narrative has to change if they want kids to stay in school longer. There has to be something done to where your scholarship is not the only way they compensate you for all this time, effort, and energy that you're putting into it, because we're the only ones not getting paid.
And I believe that's being discussed now, if these players should get paid or not. But they've been talking about this for years. So I'm hoping they could come to a conclusion with that.
I think it's needed, because I do believe that your education is important. You know, don't get me wrong. Like I grew up in a household where my mom was a teacher. You know what I mean? My aunt was a teacher. So I know the importance of education, and I've grown, you know, I grew up around that, and my mother stressed it, my aunt stressed it. So I'll never say that that's not an important part or important piece. I also say that you shouldn't put your eggs all in one basket. There should be a backup plan. Because basketball isn't forever. Even if you do make it, it's not forever. It's not something you can do for the rest of your life. So there should always be a backup plan and something that you have in the back of your mind that, okay, if this doesn't work out, or even if it does work out, but after it, I can fall back on this. But I think the colleges and institutions need to do a better job in compensating these young kids that come from nothing. You know, it's important. It's an important piece, because why should we be the only people left out in that equation, and everybody else is
when you're the most important.
You're the most important part.
All right. I think you hit it right on the head. Definitely. I appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
What do you have coming up?
Actually, September 28th, I'm speaking at the Queens Central Library.
Okay.
I'm doing a talk.
Can anybody come to this?
Anybody can come. This is open to the entire public. Anybody that wants to come can come. I would love to, you know, have anybody there. Kids, adults. It's not just one demographic, one age group. This is for anyone. But that's September 28th at 2:00 at the Queens Central Library on Merrick Boulevard. After that, I'm going to Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm supposed to be speaking at a college called Becker College.
Okay.
I'm going there actually to speak. They have this program basically geared towards African-American students. And they're just trying to make that institution more diverse. It's always been known as a predominantly white institution. So I'll be speaking there next month. I got a lot of stuff coming up, bro.
So this is bringing you around the country.
Bringing me around the world, bro. I just got an inquiry about coming out to California to speak at a school out there.
Wow.
Boston University had reached out to me to do something there. So it's definitely been persistent, and it's been a beautiful thing. You know, I'm really flourishing.
Yes. And what's the best way for the people to find you?
If you want to find me on Facebook, my name is Malachi Davis. M as in Michael, ALACHI Davis. On Instagram, it's Mal the Motivator. So it's MAL_the Motivator. And my email, mallymal329@gmail.com. So I could be reached for events. I can be booked through my email, a DM on Instagram. And if you just want to keep up with the things that I'm doing, you could, you know, look on my social media. I'm actually working on a website now, so that should be up shortly. And so any of those ways I could be reached.
Catch him while you can. Thank you guys for joining us today on the first episode of the KJ Lee Experience. I will see you guys next time. Malachi, I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, brother. That was great.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.